Annyeonghaseyo friends, and welcome back to the Torsie channel for more IU, and a very happy Friday to you. Yes indeedy. This is how I remember what day it is. I write it on my t-shirt just in case I forget, and if you're like me, you can do this too. Down in the description you'll find a link to my Redbubble store where you can find all sorts of Torsie merch and generally more IU, which is exactly what we have today. We're continuing with the Modern Times album listen. This is part 3. Part 1 and 2 are already up on the page if you need to go check out those. Today we have Obliviate, Walk With Me Girl, and then we're gonna go see our fabulous community member Betsy over in Havana. I told you I'd come visit you. I told you I would. Me and IU. First we have the teaser for Walk With Me Girl. I've loved the teasers of the other ones so far. Last week it was like sensory overload. Could barely handle it. There's a lot, so let's get straight into it. Gotcha. I just love this thing. Ooh, now it says Havana.
가끔은 돌아가자 멀리
하늘 보며
가파른 길 만나면
시간이 걸려도
성난 바람이 나고 불땐 내가 너를 잡을 테니
That guitar. That one's amazing. He has incredible phrasing, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, we're going to listen to Obliviate. Let's go. Gotcha. Listen to that.
지금부터 기억을 지운다 한 걸음 뒤로 갈 때마다 추억 하나씩 난 올 만큼을 더 걸어올 거야 난 올 만큼 더 버려야 너와 나 믿을까 열 걸음은 턱없이 모자라 천 걸음도 어쩜 부족할 거야 결국 난 나쁜 기억은 사라지고 좋은 기억만 남는다는 말도 안 되는 그 주문을 건다 마리아 오블리비아테 마우마 오블리비아테 아파 얼마나 내가 더 무너져야 해 이건 아니야 그럴 리 없단 말이야 더 선명해진 얼굴 그 목소리가 다시 닐까
Yes. Hey. How do you not dance? How?
내 머릿속은 너무 비좁아 전부 짐이 돼버린 네 흔적이 나에겐 말도 안 되는 이 사랑이 싫어 마리아 oh baby I take mama oh baby
Well, somebody's a Harry Potter fan. As soon as it started, it was Obliviate. I want to erase all my memories. I'm like, I know that spell. And then she said spell. I was like, yeah, okay. We're on the same page, my darling. What I love so much about that is that the dance that you do to that music is very close quartered. You are touching each other at all times. Hands, crossbody, around each other. It's like you're stuck to each other. It's like you're magnetized and you can't let go when you're doing that dance, which is such a nice match for I'm trying to erase you 10 steps, 1,000 steps, but you feel my ears again. This kind of futile effort to extract yourself from somebody or extract somebody from you. And you can't do it, as you can't with that style of dance either. Great, I'm looking forward to this. This is Walk With Me Girl. Che Beko's phrasing in this is phenomenal, and I really, really love that IU works with great artists, not people who you would expect somebody of her age to work with. She just finds a good artist and works with them, and it's this mutual respect thing that ends up creating great music. So let's get into it. Catch ya. Oh, that guitar. Rumba, let's go.
아이야 나랑 걷자 멀리 너의 얘기를 듣고 싶구나 아이야 서두를 것 없다 비가 올 것 같지 않아
펴지다 않는 흙을 밟으며 바람 따라 걷고 싶어요 누굴 만난다면 노래를 들려주면 나를 기억하게 해줘
돌아올 땐 더 가벼울 발걸음 가슴에 할 얘기 한가득 가끔은 돌아걷자 멀리 가파른 길 만나며
시간이 걸려도
성난 바람이라도 불 땐 내가 너를 잡을 테니
She's continuing to do the biggest, grandest, elevated version of Latin-based music. The inclusion of the violins makes it ballroom. It makes it the sweeping, dressed up and romanticized version, as that certainly is, that song that is romanticizing the walk, the conversation, the idea of leaving behind some sort of impression. The lyric, when we come back, our footsteps will be lighter, but we'll be full of memories. Are you talking about simply life's journey and your footsteps are lighter because you've lived more? Or is this kind of like the Scottish song, The Banks of Loch Lomond? You take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland before you, for me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. That's the lyrics. And you take the high road and I'll take the low road is saying you're still alive, so you walk on the ground, while I have died, so I am floating in the spirit realm. It did actually remind me of that sort of thing, that connection still to this world, even though you're not part of the mortal world anymore. And the idea of leaving something behind, telling your story to somebody else, singing a song for somebody. Will you be remembered then? What's so lovely about having that rumba to it is it has the sense of walking, but it's not a hurried walk. There's no urgency to it at all. As he says, we don't have to go quickly, there's no chance of rain. It has that wandering, ambling sense to it, very mood driven. And the sweetness of her voice next to his, he uses the lyric aiga, child, girl. It is girl. It's definitely not woman, it is girl. And the sweetness of her voice next to his maturity and that phrasing tells the two halves of that story. There is no sense of like an older man calling a woman girl and kind of misnaming her and being inappropriately belittling, sort of reducing somebody. The auditory style, having those two voices next to each other and him calling her girl, and then that sweet lilting voice of I use, you feel like it is the conversation, like these two people are walking together, and that you can get a sense of them. If you didn't have photos of who they were or who they are, you would still draw a picture in your mind because of the tones of their voices. It's very sensory. There's something very sensory about that song. Kind of wipes the mind a little bit. Obliviate. Wrong song. You know what I mean. Let's take a trip to Havana. Let's go.
거기선 모두가 노래하고 산대요. 부서지는 파도 앞에 살면서 가장 낯설은 도시, 가장 익숙한 그대와 어때요? 멋질 것 같죠? 여기 산다 못한 우리 비밀 얘기들 크게 나누면서 걸어다닐래. 이건 외워주세요. 알람 찾아 애먹사 아침마다 말해줘요. 널 위해 한 잔, 날 위해 한 잔. 늦은 저녁에 피냐 콜라다. 웃어요 활짝, 예뻐요 찰칵. 이 순간을 기억해. Havana, you're my Havana. 그대의 미치의 그 눈빛.
Ah, the syncopated clap in the background. Oh.
언제나 설레임. 그대의 존재는 날 꿈꾸게.
This is so cinematic / musical.
너무 정신없이 바쁠수록 소중한 그대와 마주한 짧은 순간들. 기다릴 누군가가 있는 하루는 행복해. 반쯤은 들뜬 내 모습. 햇살이 얼핏 달콤한 귤빛. 오후 같던 날 마지막 순간. 그대를 만날 준비할 시간. 난 여행을 떠나요.
Feel that string section.
그때는 나만의 휴식 고민과 걱정 사라지네 넌 매일 저 멀리 떠나요 그대를 볼 때면 Havana You're my Havana 그대의 미주의 눈빛 Havana 언제나 설레임 그대의 존재는 날 꿈꾸게 해 날 꿈꾸게
Yes. And then, quite unlike the previous song, that one's got pace. We're going, we're moving. It is constantly rolling, the whole thing, just the rolling of the guitar, the syncopated clapping in the background, the sweeping violins that are quite a little largo against the staccato of the syncopated clapping and the guitar, that it's just got movement. And very, as I said, very cinematic, very musical. If you were to set a scene in Havana in a film, you know, if it's an upbeat film or a musical or something, that's what it would sound like. We leave wherever we were, we cut from there, and we cut to Havana, and it's bright skies and water and fabulous dresses and, I don't know, fresh fruit on the side of the road, and the sun is shining, and this song kicks in, and everyone's dancing in the street. Like, that is what happens. That song belongs in whatever film that is. Whatever that is, just you could build an entire musical around that song. Or at least a sequence set in Havana. It's so atmospheric, but cinematically atmospheric. It's like when we talk about visual language of certain films and specifically color grading, how when something is set in Mexico or in the Middle East or in India, people who do the color grading of films always turn it yellow. You would think that all of those places are just constantly drenched in sort of this brownish yellow light, but that's them showing the visual language of it's hot there. A lot of the times it's them trying to show that wherever they are isn't quite as sophisticated as wherever they left, this visual language. There is also a thing called LA lighting, because the way LA or Hollywood used to be lit was really particular. And it is still being used in film today, even though the lights have changed, even though they don't use those lights anymore in LA. When somebody is making a film where LA is one of the characters of the film and Hollywood is one of the characters of the film, they apply that lighting to it still, because that is the visual language we're used to that tells us that's LA. And the same thing goes with New York as well. There's a New York lighting. There's all sorts of little tricks that we use in cinema and in musical theatre that indicate to us where we are and what is happening before we've even been told where we are and what is happening. And of course the same thing happens with musical scores. There is a particular auditory language that indicates where we are and what the feeling is, and you can feel the heat or the cold or what era we've walked into, what year it is, what kind of place we've walked into, and that is the auditory language of Havana. A similar auditory language to a lot of South American countries where we might imagine people stand on the side of the road dancing. Whether that's true or not is quite irrelevant. That's what we've seen in the movies, and that has become the auditory language, much like the lights that no longer exist in LA are still being put into films because that's the visual language that indicates we're in LA. That is so well written. Somebody who understands cinematic reference. I think even if you didn't have the word Havana in the song, I would listen to it and be like, do you know where I want to be right now? I want to be in Havana. Sometimes I get very annoyed by composers who are trying to show you how clever they are. They take it too far, and they actually turn the music unpleasant to listen to because they're showing off and they're no longer serving the story or the people who are listening to the music. They're just serving themselves. They're serving their own ego by showing how freaking clever they are. while IU shows how clever she is by not only understanding musical and artistic references and using those illusions in her music, she does it and creates good music at the same time, because the music she's referencing is good. So she's made it good herself. This is clever and infinitely listenable. You can listen to this always and enjoy it, and either enjoy it in isolation of anything else or enjoy it because you know what it's referencing. Either way, it's appealing in either way. And I really appreciate that someone can be that intelligent and that well considered a composer and lyricist and performer and still make something that is serving the story and treating the audience instead of just serving herself. That is an artist who's making art for the right reason. It's meant to be enjoyed, and she makes it enjoyable. And this whole album is enjoyable. Every song, this is like a no skip album. Every song is a treat. I feel like I've been treated. After every song, I'm like, that was great. Thank you so much for spoiling me. That's how I feel at the end of every song. Obviously more to come, and of course the songs that are on Modern Times Epilogue, we are carrying on. Do not forget that we are going to get to the music videos and live performances of songs from Modern Times. So if there are particular performances that you would like to watch on the channel, please do let me know. If they are one of the performances on one of the music shows, Music Banking Ninkigayo and stuff like that, they can't be watched here on YouTube because they get blocked, but we can watch them on Patreon. So if that's one of the recommendations, let me know anyhow, and we will watch it one way or the other. Over on Patreon today, we have a special little interview that IU did with the stunt coordinator or action coordinator of Hotel de Luna. Very excited to watch that. And of course, we are also watching My Mister, a very different vibe to Hotel de Luna, but my giddy aunt. It is amazing and I'm obsessed with it. So if you'd like to join us for any of that groovy stuff, the link to Patreon is also in the description. Pop on by anytime. You are always welcome. Thank you so much for joining me for more IU. 감사합니다. 사랑해요. And I will see you soon for more. 안녕.